The streets of Kensington still cling to me, the air heavy and dense with yesterday's truths. Day one hit like a punch tense, scattered like open wounds, blank stares everywhere, and a smell of neglect that shouted of a system that failed long ago. I came face to face with the crisis of the homeless in America, raw and unfiltered, and I knew just looking would never be enough.
One man's garbage is another man's treasure.
Today I've come back to listen to really hear the stories behind those faces fading into Philadelphia's shadows. What broke their lives apart? How did they end up here in this corner of the country that feels forgotten? These aren't numbers on a chart. They're people and their realities demand to be heard. Come with me as we uncover their stories. Pinky's story. 2 weeks trapped in addiction in Kensington.
Kensington is hilarious and just great sometimes, but sad and evil. And
In Kensington, beneath a dull, overcast Philadelphia sky, I met Pinky. She's 28, and everything about her is a mix of opposites. She's tall, speaks with clarity, and yet she's caught in one of the most devastating substance crises facing homeless in America.
my addiction actually has brought me out here.
She'd only been out here around 2 weeks, a short stretch of time that already felt endless. Pinky talked openly, almost like a professional giving a report, as she described living every day on the edge. Her story shows in real time how quickly a stable life can unravel after a relapse and the relentless pull of the streets.
I know it's in the top 10 worst cities in the U.S.
Pinky, whose real name is Darian, once worked as a psychiatric technician in an extended care unit of a psych ward. She had actually stayed clean for 2 full years after a rough journey that included jail time and intensive treatment. She has a young son who thankfully is safe and cared for by her mother. Pinky first started using in high school, and now it's highly addictive synthetic substances that have drawn her to Kensington.
I'm addicted to fentanyl and meth.
Her substance use is deeply connected to her mental health. She reaches for drugs to dull her emotions because she's dealing with depression and other struggles.
I really think that mental health goes hand in hand, and I struggle with depression along with a few other psychotic features. So I used to like numb my feelings and stuff.
It's heartbreaking, but her relapse cost her the job she worked so hard for. She was fired after showing up to work, impaired at the psych ward.
I wasn't to the end. That's actually why I got fired.
Oh, you got fired because you were high on the job or something?
Well, that's what they said, yeah.
Now stuck in Kensington, she's using these substances heavily every day. She's surviving by helping her new boyfriend with small-scale dealing and leaning on unemployment benefits to get by. She even talked about going through severe side effects from her drug use before she changed how she was using just to lessen the immediate danger. Even in the middle of all this, Pinky holds on to a thin line of hope. Her biggest dream is to be reunited with her son, and she's planning to go into rehab within the next week or so. Pinky's story is a loud warning that substance use must be treated as a serious mental health issue, not just a personal failure. Her message to young people is direct and vital. Stay in school and stay away from dangerous substances. It's never worth the cost.
Stay in school and say no to drugs. As cliche as it sounds, I mean, it's not worth it, and it's not worth it.
She may be trapped right now, but the fact that she has a plan to heal shows she's still fighting hard to reclaim her life. Ronnie's story. fighting deadly substances on the streets of Kensington. Farther down the block in Kensington, I met Ronnie, a man whose face, despite clear exhaustion, still carried a tough, stubborn strength. He was leaning back against a wall, but his voice was steady and firm when he agreed to talk. Ronnie's life, like so many living homeless in America, is a non-stop punishing struggle against an increasingly toxic drug supply and the daily reality of having nowhere to live. His story is a sharp snapshot of modern addiction. He summed it up in one line: "When I was using, I needed substances more than I needed air. I was using just to get through the day." Ronnie first started with prescription painkillers at 17, and later, by his late 20s, he had moved on to stronger illegal drugs. He's 39 now, which means addiction has been gripping him for roughly a decade. Like so many others, he ended up in Kensington because it's an open-air market where you can find almost anything you're looking for. He's been sleeping outside for the past year, even though he once had his own apartment for about 5 years. The drug scene has grown insanely dangerous. His addiction spiraled when he started using highly potent synthetic substances, which he described as a completely different kind of nightmare. These drugs are especially hazardous because they can leave someone totally sedated and defenseless, turning them into easy prey for violence or theft. Ronnie suffered serious health problems because of this, dealing with severe injuries and infections that made it nearly impossible for him to walk. He admitted that his overwhelming fear of withdrawal kept him on the streets even after hospital staff warned him that leaving could cost him his life. "I already felt like I was falling apart inside," he said quietly, explaining why the risk meant nothing compared to the craving. What stood out most about Ronnie was his strength and the life-saving relationship he had with the local nonprofit Savage Sisters. He described their drop-in center as a sanctuary, a place where he could show up without being judged. When that center was shut down because of political pressure, Ronnie was crushed, stressing how important it was not just for basic supplies, but for emotional and mental support. He's one of many who urgently need places like that, and he made it crystal clear, "I don't want to be on the streets. That's never what I wanted for my life." His story is a powerful charge against a society that leans on punishment instead of public health, leaving people like Ronnie to face the brutal streets of Kensington alone. The unnamed voices, echoes of a broken system. As I move further into Kensington, the stories keep coming, each one a sharp fragment of a larger, painful picture. The encampments grow thicker, the air feels heavier, loaded with the weight of lives the world has moved on from. I stop to talk with others, people whose names I miss or who decide they'd rather not give them. Their faces blur in my memory, partly because I want to protect their dignity, partly because their experiences blend into one haunting chorus of loss. There's a young guy, maybe 25, who once studied engineering at a local community college. He lost his job in the economic fallout of 2020, couldn't keep up with rent, and ended up out here, his textbooks now damp and ruined at the bottom of his bag. Then there's an older woman, close to 60, gray hair tucked under a faded scarf. She lost her home when her neighborhood got swept up in gentrification rent shooting, far beyond what her pension could handle. "I didn't choose this," she murmurs, her voice almost swallowed by the thunder of the elevated train. "Nobody chooses this." Every conversation feels like a knife turning inside me. These aren't just the homeless in America. In some abstract sense, they're distinct people, each carrying a past that could easily belong to any one of us. The young man's eyes, still sharp and thoughtful, pull me back to my own ambitions, reminding me how fragile they really are when the wrong breaks hit. The older woman's quiet surrender hits even deeper. I think of my own parents, of how thin the line can be between stability and losing everything. What really separates me from them? A few paychecks, a lucky break. The question keeps digging at me, refusing to let go. These stories aren't isolated disasters. They're signals of a system that lets people slip straight through the cracks, housing that's out of reach wages, that don't keep up a healthcare system that treats mental health and addiction like personal moral failures instead of public health emergencies. The statistics back it all up, cold and unforgiving. Federal housing data shows that job loss and medical debt are leading triggers of homelessness, affecting a huge portion of the hundreds of thousands of people who are homeless in America. And yet, right in the middle of all this pain, I still catch glimpses of kindness. A man splitting a snack, a woman handing over a blanket to someone shivering. These brief flashes of humanity, as quick as they are, remind me that even in a place that feels like a moral dead zone, people still cling to connection. It's a strange contradiction. Kensington is deeply isolating, but it's also a community of people pushed to the edge, bound together by a shared struggle. I keep walking, my footsteps suddenly sounding louder, more out of place. The awareness of being an outsider presses on me harder than before. I'm holding a camera recording pain I can't ever fully understand. I can leave, go back to a warm bed, while so many here stay stuck in a loop that seems endless. That privilege sits heavy in my chest, forcing me to face what I'm doing here. Am I helping by sharing these stories, or am I just another spectator looking in? The ethical tension is impossible to ignore, but I set it aside for now, staying focused on the one thing I can do, giving space to voices that the rest of society has tuned out. These unnamed stories, just like those of Pinky and Ronnie, are a demand that we look closer, that we face the human price of a nation's neglect. They force us to ask why we keep allowing this to happen, why we allow entire lives to drift into the shadows. A reckoning who bears the blame. The sun sinks low, dragging long shadows over Kensington's tent-lined blocks. I find a bench near the edge of the neighborhood, where the tents thin out and the city starts to resemble something familiar again. Sitting there, I'm flooded by everything I've heard today. Pinky losing time with her child, Ronnie's terrifying health crises, and the unnamed voices all echoing the same song of shattered hopes. Every single story feels like a thread in a much larger fabric of failure, not the failure of single people, but the failure of the systems that were supposed to keep them safe. People who are homeless in America aren't here because they woke up one day and wanted this. They're here because of a chain reaction of bad breaks, losing work, drowning in medical bills, dealing with untreated mental health struggles and addiction, all while trying to survive in a housing market that treats homes as investments instead of basic rights. None of this is random. It's the predictable outcome of a society that consistently values efficiency and profit over basic human care. As I sit with all of this, I feel a hard mix of emotions, anger, shame, and a deep need to make sense of it somehow. The anger comes from understanding how little it really takes to push someone over the edge into this kind of despair. One accident, one major depressive episode. These are things that can happen to anyone. But our healthcare system, expensive and often out of reach, barely catches people when they fall. So many low-wage workers simply can't afford even a modest apartment in a major U.S. city. Gentrification, like what displaced the older woman I met, has transformed once affordable neighborhoods into playgrounds for the wealthy, leaving those with fewer resources to fight for survival in places like Kensington. The guilt hits even harder because I'm here watching this unfold, and I still feel like there's so little I can actually fix. My camera can document the reality, but it can't rebuild a life or erase trauma. The urgency I feel isn't about walking away, it's about finding where real lasting change could actually begin. What makes this crisis so maddening is how visible it is, and yet how easy it is for most people to ignore. Kensington isn't tucked away somewhere out of sight. It's right here directly underneath the daily commute of thousands of people. Trains roar by overhead, carrying riders to offices and comfortable homes, while below them human beings live out a constant struggle. That gap isn't just physical, it's a deep moral divide. At what point does simply knowing this level of suffering is happening become too heavy to carry in silence? That question isn't just for you watching this. It's a question meant for all of us, for a society that allows this to exist year after year. The powerful stories I've heard today aren't just about personal pain. They're a demand that someone be held responsible. Who failed Pinky Ronnie and the many others out here? Is it the government with its constantly underfunded programs? Is it the rest of us for choosing the comfort of looking away? The hardest truth is this: it's both. Together, we've built a system that tosses people aside the moment they're no longer seen as productive, and we've quietly gone along with it by staying silent. But there's another side to this reflection, a faint spark of hope buried under all the chaos. Those small, quiet acts of kindness I saw today, a shared cigarette, an extra blanket passed to someone freezing, prove that basic humanity still survives here. These folks haven't given up on one another, even if the outside world has largely turned its back on them. That stubborn resilience is its own call to action, a powerful reminder that change is possible if we demand it and commit to it. I can't shake the sense that we're standing at a critical turning point. Kensington isn't just a local issue for Philadelphia. It's a powerful warning sign for every city and town across the country. The homeless in America are a harsh mirror, showing us exactly what happens when a society keeps choosing profit over the dignity and well-being of its people. Tomorrow, I'm going to seek out the people trying to repair this damage, the ones working quietly behind the scenes to rebuild what's been broken. I need to know whether there's a real path out of this, not just for Kensington, but for all of us. Conclusion, the call to keep listening. I'm back in my car now, watching the chaos of Kensington fade into the rearview mirror. The sudden quiet inside feels almost overwhelming after a day filled with voices, the clatter of carts, and the weight of stories that won't let go. My hands stay steady on the wheel, but my mind is still racing from the raw, unfiltered truth I witnessed. Pinky, Ronnie, and the countless others I met today aren't just passing faces. They're living proof that the American dream can crack apart in a single moment. Their experiences have etched themselves into me, leaving behind a fierce determination to keep digging, to keep asking the questions society avoids. This video was never meant to spark pity. Pity is shallow and fleeting. It was meant to make us genuinely see, hear, and understand what life looks like on the ground. These lives didn't fall apart by chance. They were crushed by stacked systemic failures, an inaccessible healthcare system, a housing market spiraling out of reach, and a culture that finds it easier to avert its eyes. But knowing about this isn't the finish line, it's the starting point. These honest, painful stories demand action, not just sympathy. They remind us that this crisis isn't their issue. It's ours, created by the systems we accept. Tomorrow, I'll begin searching for real answers, meeting the people and organizations fighting every day to change things. I want to find the real solutions, the lifelines that can finally break this cycle of addiction and people becoming homeless in America. Will you stand with me? Don't let this be just another video, share it. Kensington is a wake-up call, a demand that we finally fix what's broken. Their fight for dignity is a fight that belongs to all of us.